So, are you in the market for a four-door sedan that's fast, fun, and practical? Well, the Subaru WRX might be the car for you. With its 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder up front, putting out 268 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, and a 6-speed manual, it could be the ultimate performance car. But what if you want a little more performance? What if you really want to push it to the max? Get the ultimate WRX. Well then, you gotta go for the STI like we have here. Massive shout out to World Subaru for lending us this car. They are amazing. They lent us $80,000 worth of Subarus for this review today. Awesome guys over there. If it wasn't for them, this WRX wouldn't be here for this review. But I'm telling you, this thing is sweet. And coming up next, I'm gonna review the WRX, and then hop in the STI, see which one is better, which one is worse. So here I am, guys, in the 2017 Subaru WRX. Now this thing is really nice. It's basically the car that you're gonna get if you can't really afford the STI, but you still want something that's fun, something practical, and mainly you're gonna get this car because you're a fanboy. I mean, who are we kidding? This car has a massive following. Now, this is the first time that the WRX has really been a standalone car. It always used to be the Impreza WRX or something like that. But the Impreza now is a completely separate car from what this is. This is a whole new design. And this thing is really nice because it's just very fast. It's very usable, but it's not necessarily over the top. It's more of a discreet STI. So let's start off with how it looks. This car has very interesting controversy on the way that it looks, and that's because the styling isn't all that inspiring is what I want to say, because it just kind of looks like a robot. You have all these massive grills and intakes on the front end that look crazy, and the headlights look like the headlights of a, I don't know, like some kind of robot that wants to kill you. And then you move on to the side and there's nothing particularly stylish about it. There's a lot of lines that don't seem very fluid or purposeful, and the 18-inch alloys look great, but other than that, there isn't really anything that catches the eye in like a, ah, that looks amazing kind of way. It's very aggressive, but I wouldn't call it pretty. Now, moving on to the back, I think the back is the one bit that looks pretty damn good. It doesn't have that big obnoxious spoiler that the STI has, and it's kind of more discreet. The taillights don't really stand out all that much, but I mean, the quad exhausts certainly do. Those look incredible. You have a faux carbon fiber rear diffuser on there that probably doesn't do a whole lot since it's just plastic, but it accentuates those exhaust pipes beautifully. So it doesn't necessarily have that gorgeous styling that some other cars might have, but it's very purposeful styling, and I feel like that is what attracts the people that like this car. It's not pretty, but it's functional. Now let's move on to the driving experience of the WRX. Now let me just say, this thing changes directions unbelievably well. The steering is super direct. It has pretty good on-center feel too. It's not one of those steerings that's like alive in your hands, but it communicates the road very well. It builds up weight nicely, and oh my God, it's just like laser sharp. Like, you just point it in and you freaking go where you want to go. These tires grip really well. The symmetrical 4-wheel drive that this car has is totally something that is a characteristic, a defining characteristic of this car, just because it allows it to grip so tenaciously. It's unbelievable. And the steering actually has feel. It's not dead like a lot of modern car electric steering setups. Now, it is pretty quick. It has a 2-liter boxer 4-cylinder engine with an intercooler on it. Now, you see that big hood scoop in the front of the hood? Doesn't look very pretty. it looks kind of almost obnoxious, and you're probably thinking, oh, it's fake. They're just doing that to look cool. Not true. When they designed this engine, they realized that they had to put a big-ass intercooler on it to cool the inlet air for the turbo. And what they had to do was just strap it on to the top of the flat 4 engine. And in order to feed that intercooler with air, they ended up putting that massive hood scoop on it. And it is 100% functional. Without it, this car wouldn't really, work. It's pretty nice. Now, let's talk a little bit about the drivetrain. As I said, 2-liter flat 4, 268 horsepower, and it's mated to a 6-speed manual. Now, I must say the transmissions in both the WRX and the STI are pretty similar. Now, I do like the clutch, except for it's very much like a button. As you could tell by my one stall, it doesn't really feel very linear. You're like immediately at the engage point, so that will take a little bit of getting used to. There's not a lot of travel. You immediately get to the engage point and then you're immediately off, so you got to be ready for that, otherwise you will stall. Now the shifter, I'm not completely sold on it just because it seems a little bit rubberier than I might like, but it's very direct and it has very short throws, which make it good for quick shifts, which is what you're going to be doing in this car. Now, it does feel a little bit rubbery, like I said, when you're slotting it into gears. It's not necessarily like a metal-on-metal mechanical click that you get in some cars, but it works. And that's the whole story behind this car. The whole idea is like, is it like beautiful? Is it like something ridiculous? Not necessarily, but it works, and it works well. That is what matters. It's very quick. It does 0 to 60, and I want to say 5.1 seconds. It's around 5.1. It's about 4.8 in the STI. So let's talk a little bit about the interior of the WRX. Now, this interior is pretty standard Subaru. You see it in the Forester, and it's a nice interior, but it doesn't necessarily shout anything at you. It's very much a functional interior, not really designed for much more than that. Now, it's very high up. Everything is easy to see. You have the 7-inch display here, which, like I've always said, is one of the best in the business because it's a glass display. It reacts quickly. I can't tell you about the navigation on it because this car doesn't have it. Up-level cars do. Now, you have a nice soft touch dash. You have red stitching above the little display here that shows your boost and other functions like the time, outside temperature, and all that good stuff. But everything else is pretty black. You have gray cloth seats in this premium trim. You have cloth inserts on the doors, and you have this faux carbon fiber trim on the dashboard. Now, it looks a lot better than the black trim that you get in the STI, but I'm still not totally convinced on faux carbon fiber. That's just not necessarily my thing. Now, these seats are pretty comfortable. They have good side bolsters up here, but by where you sit for your legs, the bolstering actually isn't all that incredible, but it holds you pretty well. They're pretty comfortable. If you want something that's more comfortable, you can get leather, but I mean, this car costs $31,000. You're not going to get leather at that price point. Now, the ride, it's very firm and controlled, which is what contributes to its handling, but it's not too hard. You definitely feel all the bumps in the road and whatnot, and if you're a bit older and you have a stiff spine or arthritis or some crap, you might not like it, but for a young, spry man in his prime like myself, I can totally tolerate it. There is nothing wrong with this at all. Now, it's a bit loud in here. It just seems like I have a door open or a window open. The road noise from the tires is pretty loud, but I mean, it's one of those things you got to expect with this car. It's not a luxury machine by any means at all, but I mean, it's somewhat practical. Let's talk about the practicality. 4 doors, 5 seats. The legroom in the back is actually pretty good. It's not massive, but it works out pretty well. And then the trunk's pretty decently sized too. It's not as deep as you would expect from a mid-size sedan, but it's still pretty usable in terms of space. So this car, it's one of those things where it has a huge following, it has a lot of capability, and it's a lot of fun. Now the question is this what you want to buy over like a Golf GTI or a Focus ST or something like that, well, that's really up to you. Both those cars are hatchbacks. This is one of the very few cars that you can get that's performance for this price. That's a sedan and has Subarus known for all-wheel drive. Like the GTI, that's front-wheel drive. The ST, that's front-wheel drive. You can't really get an all-wheel drive car, performance car, in this price range. You can get like a BRZ, which is rear, but that doesn't really compete. You could get the Focus RS, which is like almost $45,000, or you can get the Golf R, which is pretty much the same in terms of pricing, which is a lot more than this car is. Now, that's probably a main reason you get this car, is because you can't necessarily afford the STI, or you don't necessarily want the performance of the STI, but you still want something that's fun and usable and has the reliability of a Subaru. Now, that's the main reason you're going to buy this car. I can tell you firsthand, it is a blast to drive. Like, I do love it. There is nothing wrong with it in terms of the way that it handles by any means. Gotta turn around, get out of the way of all of these people. And once I get onto this road here, we're going to give it the beans, see how it goes. There's hardly any turbo lag either, which is actually pretty incredible. Once you're above like 2,500 RPM, the turbo really does kick in. Now, this is almost the same engine that's in the XT that I reviewed. It has more horsepower though, 268 versus 250, but they feel actually comparably quick. The XT felt very similar to this. The power delivery is very similar in the way that it delivers power as you're accelerating up through the rev range, and they're honestly probably similarly quick. The XT does 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. This is like 5.1, so it's definitely quicker, but the power is good. Oh my God. So whilst this car accelerates well and is fun to drive, does it have enough power? Well, this does. This is the Subaru WRX Sti. Now, this thing is the real deal. It has blue paint, green brake calipers, and the biggest difference between this and the WRX is its engine. The boost has been upped to bring up the power, and also it has that trick center differential that can split the power front, back, side to side. Now, the WRX does not have that, the Sti does. Coming along to the side, you have awesome 19-inch alloy wheels. You have Brembo brakes with a nice lime green color to them. And the best part is round back. This is the real reason you opt for an Sti over the WRX. It's this massive boot lid spoiler. This thing is huge. I can stick my head in the gap. What more could you want? They always say the bigger the spoiler, the bigger the So because of that, you gotta buy this car. Now, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hop in the Sti, take it for a brief drive and see, is it really worth it over the WRX? This thing's really fast. So here we are in the new WRX Sti, and this thing is ballistic. It is very fast. So first impressions, it just corners like nothing else I've ever driven. It is so flat. Now, the turbo is really good. There's a teeny bit of lag down low, but once you really get into the power, holy shit, do you fly. This thing is crazy fast. Now, there is a fair amount of road noise in here, considerably more than there is in the WRX. I feel like a lot of that's because of the tires and maybe a little bit from that rear wing. Now, the interior, the biggest thing that stands out to me immediately is all the red stitching. You have red stitching on the dashboard. You have some on the seats here. You actually have red leather bolstering on some of the seats. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, another big thing about this car is obviously the engine. This one has 305 horsepower. It's a lot quicker than the WRX. I think 0 to 60 in this car is something like 4.8 seconds, which is totally believable after driving it. It's ridiculous. Now, the transmission, I really like the clutch. It's almost like a button. It's like, hey, I want to drive fast right now. Just let out the clutch and you freaking go. Now, the shifter, I've only been driving the car for a couple minutes, and my first impression is that it seems a teeny bit rubbery, and not unbelievably direct, but it works very well. It's easy to do a quick shift because the throws are short, so I think once you get used to it, it'll be pretty good. Now, the handling, it's unbelievable. Like, I've never felt something, of course I'm talking about handling as soon as we get to a red light, but I've never felt something that is quite as direct as this is. It's very darty, it just grips. And part of the reason that it grips so well is the center differential. You can adjust it in 1,000,001 ways. You can do automatic, or you can actually manually adjust where the power goes. Now, of course, I'm an idiot, so I don't understand how that works. So I can just press auto and have a good time, and that's all I need to do. It's fast. It's really fast. And there's a little boost gauge there up in the center console, just like it is in the XT. Same type of boost gauge. It's awesome. God, steering is so direct. You know, the transmission's actually really good. I've gotten used to it big time, and God, is it nice. The interior definitely is loud though. If you're looking for something that's gonna be a bit more daily drivable, I would definitely say go with the WRX. But oh my God, this thing is crazy. I'm sorry if this hasn't been the most informative review, but World Subaru, who is so gracious in lending us this car, the sales manager there, Shane Henderson, awesome dude, but he said that we had to keep the mileage down because if someone is in the market for this car, they're gonna want it to be extremely low mileage. I've put exactly 2 miles on this car since I started driving it, and I need to keep it to like 3 or 4 just because if he's gonna sell this car, it needs to be low mileage. But overall, the interior is very similar. It's just a little bit more accents. You have the nice 7-inch display that works well. Very similar to the WRX. Now, basically the big difference in this car is you have the center diff, makes it grip better. It looks a bit better because it's a bit more stylish with that rear wing. Of course, you'd never really call this car stylish. It's a purposeful design, aerodynamically designed. I mean, it's not pretty, but it is a lot more noticeable than the WRX is. Overall, I'd say if you have the money and you really want something bonkers, get the STI. This thing handles crazy, it's crazy fast, and it's crazy good fun. As always, thank you so much to World Subaru for lending us this car. They are amazing. Shane Henderson, one of the sales managers there, is an awesome guy. They really treat us like family, and they've been more than gracious in lending Motor Minds a lot of cars. They have been way too nice with that. So if you really want to check out a car, if you're going to buy Subaru and you live in the New Jersey area, especially along the Jersey Shore, you have to go to World Subaru. They are the best, straight up. They're just awesome guys, and they let me an STI. I'm 18 and I'm driving an STI. What could be better? And making awesome reviews for you guys just wouldn't be possible without their help. So huge shout out to them. And this car is awesome. What else can I say? Unfortunately, I have to go park it now because I have very limited time with it. Don't want to put a lot of miles on. But yeah, what a car. Jeez, just what a car. Very glad I had this experience. Oh yeah. As always, I hope to see you guys watching our next video.